Hey everyone, welcome to Car Review. Today we're going to do a no spoiler review of the new movie Bad Boys for Life. So let's get into it. So, Bad Boys for Life, or Bad Boys 3 as I'll call it in this video, is the third installment in the Bad Boys series. And it's been a long time since we've had a Bad Boys movie starring Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. I think the last two came out in the 90s, and those movies are easily products of the 90s, being really campy but also a lot of fun. A lot of really dry, coarse humor that I think is still funny today. Some people won't find it as funny, but that's just the sign of the times and all that stuff. Anyway, Bad Boys for Life. It's a good third chapter in this series. I recently rewatched the first Bad Boys about a week before I saw this movie, and I didn't watch the second one because honestly I don't like the second one a whole lot. It's all right, but it ain't as good as the first one. And this third one is fine. It's a good time, and I've seen some reviews coming out that really praise it and say it's great, and I wouldn't go so far as to say it's great. I've also seen some reviews saying that it's the best of the three. I wouldn't go that far either. Again, I think that trophy belongs to the first one, but this movie is good, and it's a good time. And though we don't have Michael Bay at the director helm this time, this movie still feels a lot like it has his kind of stamp on it. And whether you like Michael Bay or not, those movies are really successful because of him. It has his kind of humor, his kind of action, his kind of dialogue, all that stuff. And this movie does a good job of replicating that, but not overstuffing it to the point where it feels like a mindless fest. Like, I love the Transformers movies. I think they're good fun, but I can also admit they're pretty bad movies, except for the first one and Bumblebee. But whatever. Anyway, though, Bad Boys for Life it's good. It's good. There are a few issues with it. I'd say one of the issues I had is that it felt a little long, not by much. I'd say about maybe 10 to 15 minutes. There were a lot of moments I thought, okay, you could speed it up a little bit, maybe cut out a few seconds of dialogue. There's no individual scene I was like, yeah, you don't need that. There were just moments where I was like, okay, come on, let's get on with it. Which isn't a bad thing, because this movie is definitely more slower than the rest, and that's okay. But I also think that the other problem I have with this movie is the fact that it took itself a little too seriously. Again, the action, it's like a Bad Boys movie. The dialogue, like a Bad Boys movie. The music, Bad Boys. They get the camera work down really well. This movie's shot really well and everything, but it's a little too serious. There's a little, I don't know. I saw a lot of reviews saying that this movie has a lot of heart and a lot of passion, and it sure does, and that's good. But if you know the two Bad Boys movies that came before this, you know that they weren't driving it on heart and passion. They were driving it on music, visuals, action, and laughs. And Bad Boys 3 has all that. It has it just in smaller amounts. Again, the action is really good. The comedy, when it's there, it's good. Martin Lawrence is definitely the comedy machine in this movie, almost too much in a way. They really tried to regulate him as the older, wiser, slower type cop, whereas Will Smith is still the loose cannon, which I kind of knew that was coming in, but they really drive home that Martin Lawrence's character wants, retire, be the stay-at-home dad. They make a lot of dad jokes, honestly, and they're fine. It's just it kind of felt overstuffed with really capitalizing on that these characters are old and that they are older men and they are older cops, and this is a young man's game, and they really sell that. Again, it's not bad. It at no point did it feel like a Adam Sandler comedy like Grown Ups. It didn't feel like that. I'm not trying to knock on Adam Sandler. He's a funny guy, but it didn't get into Grown Ups territory. It just felt a little repetitious to the point where I was like, okay, we get it. They're older. It's 2020 and all that stuff. But again, this movie did feel like a Bad Boys movie. It's just it just could have aligned itself more with the previous two movies. But it has those staples. It has those nice scoping shots, those nice rotational shots, a lot of good action. I mean, they really did a good job. And this movie has a production budget of around 100, maybe 100 million and some change. And they put that money to work. The visuals are really good. The action set pieces are good. It doesn't feel like this movie's trying to just survive on brand recognition. and the two stars. It feels like they're really trying to push that this is the third chapter, not like this is just like the return of these two characters who we fell in love with. It really feels like, no, we have a story to tell. We're gonna tell it. It just so happens that this story comes, years and years later, which I applaud them, because they really could have easily phoned this in on callbacks and tropes to the other two movies, and again, when they do that, they do it tastefully, but they don't push it down your throat that, oh, remember these guys, like they were cool once. It's not a cash grab. They invested a lot of time and effort into this movie, and it shows. This is a well-made movie. It is good. It is not the kind of Bad Boys movie I expected nor really wanted, but I'm happy with the end result, knowing that in years to come I can look back on this now trilogy and say it's a good trilogy, whereas before I look back on the first two movies and I was like, the first one I think is great and the second one I think is okay to good. So that is my review of Bad Boys for Life. It is a good time at the movies, and it really does feel just like a movie. I don't normally get popcorn and stuff, but with this one I went in and I got a big bucket of popcorn, and I enjoyed myself. I laughed, I had a good time, good action, all that good stuff. It has the tropes of a good movie, and yeah, Bad Boys for Life. They keep kicking, and it shows that this series has more legroom than I guess we thought. The only thing is that they do leave it open-ended to where they could do another movie, and I hear that there are talks of a fourth one, but I really don't know how they could do that unless that one gets super, super campy, because again, in this one, they really push the fact that Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are older and that they kind of want to slow down, maybe retire even. If you do that again, it's going to taint this one, and the fourth one's going to feel more boring, and eventually they're just going to have to retire, and nobody really wants to see that, But again, I'm reviewing the third one, not the alleged fourth one. So at the end of the day, the third one is good, so I think you should definitely go check it out. All right, everyone, that is my review of Bad Boys for Life. If you like this video, comment, share, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, peace.